Mount Rainier National Park is a place of breathtaking glaciers, alpine meadows, and dense moss-draped forests. It's one of the most visited parks in the Pacific Northwest and one of the most mysterious. How Haunted is one of the most mysterious national parks in the USA. Join us today for this installment of Haunted Parks. Welcome to Morbid Outdoors, the podcast that ventures deep into the shadows of the wild. Here, we unravel the mysteries of missing persons, explore spine-chilling legends, and share the most morbid stories that nature has to offer. From the depths of the dense forests to the highest mountain peaks, we'll uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the great outdoors. Join us as we navigate the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying. So if you dare, grab your gear and let's embark on a journey into the unknown. This is Morbid Outdoors. Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Thank you all to those who wished me a happy birthday last Wednesday. It was quite the birthday I will never forget, and not in the oh my gosh, it was so great way. I did have a wonderful day cheering on my students at the Special Olympics. It was such a nice day for that. It was very sunny. The weather was perfect. And the kids all had so much fun. But other than that, wow, it was quite a week. I am just crawling towards the end of the school year. I've been so tired. And I have an update about my Southern Utah visit. So I and a friend, we went down to Boulder, Utah, kind of in the Escalante area, and we stayed at this amazing Airbnb bed and breakfast. And it was great. The hosts were awesome. They actually cooked us breakfast in the morning, which was super great. We hiked to Lower Calf Creek Falls in the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument area. That is a beautiful hike. We did more hiking in Capitol Reef, and we went out to the Moonscape Overlook, and I'm terrified of heights, so I did not really super enjoy that, but it was beautiful. We were blessed with amazing weather. It was literally the perfect weekend. And after we hiked 7-ish miles, we started super early. And so when we finished, it was around lunchtime. So we had tacos from a food truck and ice cream. I don't know if a day can get any more perfect than that. A great hike and then tacos and ice cream. It was awesome. So I had a really great time in Southern Utah. And if you ever want a really pretty hike that leads to a waterfall, it was like a desert oasis. And that is Lower Calf Creek Falls. It's pretty popular, so you probably have seen photos of it on Pinterest or Instagram. But it was a great weekend. This is my last week of work with students for the school year. Super pumped for the summer, got a lot of fun things planned, and yeah, I hope that you guys are doing great on this Wednesday, and let's dive into it today. Oh, I forgot to say, my name is Elise. I do have a Patreon if you want extra content, and thank you so much for tuning in today. So today we are going to be in Mount Rainier National Park. I have covered quite a few cases in Mount Rainier. If you've heard about Mount Rainier from my other cases, you can kind of skip the first part of this episode because it's just the background of the park. But since I've covered it before, I'm not going to really go into an amazing amount of detail. Now, Mount Rainier National Park is beautiful. I've been a few times and it is so, so pretty. And it's actually where my husband and I had our engagement photos taken. And it is just breathtaking. It's so pretty. Now, when I visited Mount Rainier, I never had any spooky instances. It was just all very serene. But A lot of people that visit Mount Rainier do walk away with spooky stories or spooky instances. So that is what we're going to talk about today. But first, we're going to do our negative reviews. So Marie said, roads are bad and there was nothing to see. I'm not sure if Marie was in the right national park or the right area. Ryan said, too beautiful, and he rated it 1 star. So interesting. And then our last review says, when I went, only paranormal things happened to me, and it was said that there were sex and disappearances there with like a slanty face. So that's a very interesting review, in my opinion. So that's why I included it today. Mount Rainier is so, so beautiful. And it's like literally picturesque postcard perfect views. But behind those postcard perfect views, there's another side to Rainier, a colder one, a darker one. Hikers speak of ghostly voices drifting through the mist. Campers report waking to shadows that don't belong there. Park rangers, off the record, tell stories they'll never repeat on duty. And with over 100 people having vanished in and around the park over the years, some locals actually believe the mountain keeps its secrets buried deep beneath the snow and stone. So today, grab your pack, zip up your tent tight, and keep an eye on the tree line, because we're hiking straight into the haunted legends of Mount Rainier. This national park was established on March 2nd, 1899, and was the fourth national park established in the United States. It sits at over 236,000 acres, and in 2022 had over 1.6 million visitors. The history in Mount Rainier National Park goes back really far, and the park actually contains 42 locations that are on the National Register of Historic Places, including 4 National Historic Landmarks. And did you know that there's basically a mass grave on Mount Rainier? I actually visited the memorial, not the place where the corpses still reside. But it's called the Marine Memorial, and it's located along West Side Road and can only be reached by hiking or biking. And basically, it's a large boulder that has a bronze plaque on it, and it's there to remember the 32 U.S. Marines that died when their plane crashed into the South Tahoma Glacier on December 10th, 1946. But due to the hazardous conditions of the crash location, their remains were never recovered, and they're all still up there. So they do have this memorial you can go and view, and I think a lot of people miss it because you just can't pull up to it on your car, but it's worth visiting, in my opinion. Mount Rainier National Park is a paradise for nature lovers who can hike, camp, and view wildlife. It boasts over 275 miles of maintained trails, catering to hikers of all skill levels. I can personally attest to that because my husband actually has cerebral palsy, and he's hiked there, and there are some really nice, kind of easier graded trails, but still with amazing views. So from hard hikes to short, family-friendly nature walks to challenging multi-day treks, there's something for everyone. Popular easy trails lead to stunning wildflower meadows, breathtaking viewpoints, and even glaciers. But not every visit ends well for hundreds of visitors. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So, what makes Mount Rainier so haunted? Well, to start, one of the most famous legends is that of the vanishing hitchhiker. So, this is a ghostly figure that is said to appear on the side of the road that leads into the park. According to the story, a young woman who died in a car accident in the 1930s still roams the road, hitchhiking with unsuspecting drivers before vanishing into thin air. Now, this is my this is a fear of mine. So, I feel like every single national park does have a vanishing hitchhiker, and it freaks me out so freaking bad because I do occasionally give rides to hitchhikers, and not just any hitchhiker, but like a backpacker or a skier or someone I know that I don't think they're going to murder me. And I would be freaked out if I picked someone up and then they were just gone. I mean, I don't know what I would do, but I'd probably cry or something. And again, in Mount Rainier, you've probably heard of the Wonderland Trail, and it circles the base of Mount Rainier. It's very long. I forget exactly how long it is, but people backpack it all the time. And it's also said to be haunted by the ghosts of hikers who have died on the trail over the years. Visitors have reported hearing ghostly whispers and feeling an eerie presence while hiking along the trail, particularly at night. So that is creepy. The fact and the thought that the Wonderland Trail has deceased hikers still lingering around. Very interesting to think that it wasn't just one instance of someone that died that people know about and then they hear or see this person. It's just like multiple spirits or entities or beings that are still hanging around the Wonderland Trail. Also in Mount Rainier, people have seen like ghost clouds. So there's a post on a travel website, and I'm going to read this person's story. It's a little long, so stay with me and I might do some summarizing. We went in the middle of June 2024. The park was pretty empty when we went and left very early, around 5 a.m. to beat the crowds. We decided to go to Reflection Lake, which is one of the most picturesque spots near the mountain. And I personally can attest, I have been to Reflection Lake. It is very beautiful. Reflection Lake is located in the Mount Rainier Park along Stevens Canyon Road. This popular destination spot, named after a mirror-like lake that reflects views of Mount Rainier, still had a lot of snow on the mountain. Near the parking lot, we spotted a strange cloud-like object. We were the only car in the parking lot and debated on if we should get out of the car or not because it was so cold. We decided the picture op was worth it, so we got out of the car. We were struck with icy cold air, and then when I looked up, there was a weird, thick cloud about 12 feet tall, just a little taller than our Jeep. The rest of the sky around the low, mysterious cloud was clear. The cloud was too thick to see through, and it had a shimmering effect on it. It was so low that you felt like you could touch it. The air was thick, like something was around and we were being stared at. We stood under the cloud for a few minutes, wondering what it was. The other odd thing we noticed was that there was no sound while we were standing under it. It was eerie. We tried to throw a rock at it, and the rock just went through and landed as normal. Then we noticed that it moved when we moved. It scared the hell out of us, so we ran back to the Jeep and left. My fiancé started the Jeep and there was no sound. A few seconds later, once we were fully pulled out of the parking lot, the music started blaring and it was like someone turned the sound back on. We drove away and couldn't believe what we just saw. Did we see an alien or a ghost? We decided to go back to make sure we saw what we saw. But the cloud was gone when we got back. To this day, we still have no idea what it was that we saw at the Reflection Lake parking lot. I've never seen anything like it since. The whole situation was terrifying. We took a few photos, and you can see where the otherworldly ghost cloud moved and how low it was. And the photos posted were what I think photoshopped or AI. So this might be one of those instances where it's like, oh, someone just wants to get traction online. Although I think if it was cold up there, it might have just been really thick fog. Who knows? But I always like to share a personal encounter, fake or not. I just think it's fun. And that reminds me, if you have any ghost stories or anything you want to share with me, or I'm going to call them campfire stories. But if you have any, you can email me at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com, and I will do a campfire stories episode where I share stories from listeners. As for the trails in general, a lot of people and hikers, backpackers, they've heard footsteps or like a crunching snow sound while backpacking and sleeping outside. And, this could be animals. If you've camped at all, you know that like the smallest animal can sound like someone like walking through the woods, and it's like a bird. So, I'm expecting that if it's people that are experienced outdoors, they wouldn't mistake a bird for a human. But it could happen, I guess, but very creepy to hear footsteps or like crunching snow because like, birds and animals, they don't really like crunch snow like we do. So that would definitely freak me out if I were sleeping outside in this national park. Also, if you're a movie buff, you'll be interested to know that the Paradise Inn actually inspired The Exorcist, the movie. The Paradise Inn was constructed in 1916, and it has become a popular destination for mountain hikers and tourists. And it's believed that the ghosts inside are those who lost their lives on Mount Rainier, and they just reside at this inn. Guests at the hotel report a feeling of being watched by an unseen presence, and even the staff has voiced their certainty of spectral presences. The sound of furniture scraping the floor and hushed whispers are often heard at this resort, which is creepy. And it's so old. It's so pretty, but it does give you that really old kind of creepy vibe. And it's not like it's decrepit, it's just old. So I get why a lot of people assume that it's haunted, and it possibly could be. So, how did Mount Rainier basically inspire the movie The Exorcist? Well, it kind of started as rumors around town, which then became a newspaper article, which inspired a movie, which then started more rumors, which inspired more articles, and the rest is kind of like it's uncertain history, but it did happen. It's kind of like the chicken and the egg, or egg. I'm not from the Midwest, so I don't know why I said egg. Maybe I'm spending too much time in Utah. What we do know is that in 1949, a 14-year-old boy who lived in Mount Rainier began experiencing strange symptoms. The family reported chairs and heavy furniture moving on their own, and the boy screaming obscenities in his sleep. A doctor, a psychologist, and other experts could find nothing wrong, like medically wrong, and the family turned to a demonic possession as the explanation for everything that was happening. So they tried different things. First was a Protestant that came to help, then later a priest at St. James Catholic Church who attempted an exorcism, and finally they called in a Jesuit from St. Louis who reportedly cured the boy. The first print accounts took the exorcism at face value. This was the title, quote, "Priest frees Mount Rainier boy reported held in devil's grip." And that's from an August 20th, 1949 account in the Washington Post. As you can imagine, the exorcism was very long, and it was basically just like a movie because, hello, this kind of inspired the movie The Exorcist. But reported accounts say that the boy broke into violent tantrums of screaming, cursing, and voicing of Latin phrases, which is a language that he had never studied. Yeah, so creepy. So basically, the next year after this happened, a senior at Georgetown was searching for a topic for a speech contest. A Jesuit priest suggested demonic possession and cited the Mount Rainier case. That brief conversation stuck with William Peter Blatty for more than 20 years. And in 1971, he published a fictional novel which changed the victim to a 12-year-old girl and the location to Georgetown and gave the parents a divorce and gave the priest a crisis of conscience. So basically, he heard about the story when he was in college, and then he kind of rewrote it, and it became a best-selling novel, and then in a screenplay, and the movie did even better. It nearly topped the box office for a year and became like the horror film. And it was kind of mainstream now. So something small that happened in Mount Rainier, in the city that surrounds it, inspired this huge, huge thing. And that movie actually, some say that it was like the first horror, you know? So this case is often discussed when talking about like creepy Mount Rainier. As the case was discussed again, local lore established the address at 3210 Bunker Hill Road, where a 3-story house had once stood. The house, I'm not sure, it was either torn down or it was burned down, which kind of furthered the urban legend that because the house was no longer here, it was the site of such a crazy incident. Now, where that house burned down or was torn down, it was then turned into the site of a small city park with a gazebo. And locals started calling it the Exorcist Lot or Satan's Lot. And some local parents would not let their children play on it or in it. So, oh, that sounds like something my mom would do, honestly. She would probably not let me play in that area if I were a kid. But really cool information about how an exorcism in Mount Rainier and, kind of inspired the Exorcist movie. And I apologize. Before I said that the Paradise Inn was the inspiration, it wasn't like the inspiration, but this story from Mount Rainier was the inspiration for the movie. Although I wouldn't doubt that super creepy, bizarre things have happened in the Paradise Inn because, like I said, it's over 100 years old. It's creepy, it's beautiful, and there are most likely lingering energies still residing in that inn. And did you know that the first official flying saucer sighting was in Mount Rainier National Park? This is how the story goes. On June 24th, 1947, a private pilot named Kenneth Arnold was flying from Challis, Washington on a business trip when he got wind of a $5,000 reward for the discovery of a U.S. Marine transport airplane that had crashed somewhere in Mount Rainier National Park. After searching the park over and finding nothing, he prepared to continue on his trip to Yakima. Suddenly, Kenneth saw a bright, flashing light in the sky over Rainier. Afraid he was dangerously close to another aircraft, he looked frantically around only to find no one else was there. Then, more bright flashes appeared, 9 total. After testing multiple theories as to what these lights might be, the theories included geese, reflections from his plane windows, Kenneth was at a complete loss to what they were. They quickly approached Mount Rainier and then passed in front of it, occasionally giving off bright light flashes as they flipped around erratically. Kenneth described them as a series of crescent-shaped objects and likened their movement to saucers skipping on water. After reporting his findings to friends and soon after news outlets, the story gained national attention. So, very interesting that, he was looking for that Marine airplane that went down the previous December, and he accidentally stumbled upon what he assumed were UFOs or UAPs. And honestly, I'm not surprised because the Native Americans from the region or the indigenous people, they actually have legends about stuff like this. And one of those legends doesn't specifically have to do with lights in the sky, but it does have to do with what goes on Mount Rainier. So the legend goes, it's from the Nisqually Native American legend, and it's specifically about the mountain itself. As the tale goes, Tahoma, which is the spirit of Mount Rainier, Tahoma would devour mountaineers into her cave like stomach. It's safe to say that no member of the Nisqually tribe wanted to take the risk, even when the first potential ranger mountaineers asked for their help in 1870. So even when the people that were colonizing this area, they were trying to climb Mount Rainier and explore it and map it out, they had asked the indigenous people that had lived in this area for thousands of years for guidance. And those people would not do it, not for money, not for trading or bartering. It was not worth it to them, the risk to their lives, because so many people disappeared while on and around Mount Rainier. And so I just find that very interesting. And like I've said before, when the indigenous people have legends about something, it's probably a good thing to listen to those legends because I don't always think they're totally untrue or fictitious. And if you want to learn more about people that have mysteriously vanished on this mountain, go listen to my previous episode, Victims of Mount Rainier, and we kind of discuss multiple people who are missing and what the numbers look like for missing persons in Mount Rainier National Park. It's also been reported that the Camp Muir Trail is haunted. People have reported seeing things, hearing things pretty heavily on this trail. Also, what's a haunted national park without a ghost town? This ghost town's name was Melmont, and it was established in the early 1900s as a thriving coal mining town. It really had everything a town could need, including a school, post office, saloon, train depot, and even a hotel. But over the next decade or two, the mines slowly began to close down, and Melmont slowly but surely started to become abandoned. And when a forest fire swept through the town soon after, not much remained of the now ghost town. But you can visit it today. Depending on what route you take, so like most people take the trail on the Carbonado side of the Fairfax Bridge, you can go anywhere from an hour and a half to about 4 hours to reach the abandoned remnants of Melmont. It might take a little bit of searching, but you can still find the old schoolhouse walls, railroad tracks, and even the remnants of an old bridge at the spooky Mount Rainier attraction. So, Mount Rainier has a little bit of everything: ghost towns, weird lights in the sky, fog, mist, kind of weird things like that, legends, and a mass grave, along with aliens or UFOs. There's a lot we don't know about Mount Rainier and why it's such a hotspot for this paranormal or supernatural activity, not to mention all of the disappearances and the bizarre, mysterious deaths that happen. One that I always think about when I talk about Mount Rainier is the mysterious death slash homicide of Sheila Carnes. She was a seasonal worker back in 1996. She went missing, and then, like 7 months later, her remains were found in an area that had already been searched. And the FBI said it was homicide, and her case still remains unsolved today. So, I also did an episode of that. I think it's number 4, Murder in Paradise. Go check that one out. But yeah, Mount Rainier is creepy. It makes your skin crawl, but it's also so beautiful. And I just love that juxtaposition. Nature can be amazingly beautiful and majestic, but also dark and scary. And that's kind of the theme of my whole podcast. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you're having a great Wednesday. I hope you're having a great summer, and I will see you next time. But before I go, as always, recreate responsibly and remember, sometimes the great outdoors aren't always great. Thanks for listening to Morbid Outdoors. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. It's free, easy, and it helps us out immensely. When you subscribe, you get updates on our latest episodes, and it also boosts our visibility, making it easier for other curious souls to find us. Another great way to support Morbid Outdoors is by leaving us a review. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, a quick review helps us know what you love about the show. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Morbid Outdoors Podcast. You can email us case suggestions and your campfire stories at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you next time.